Welcome to Power Up Your Practice, the go-to podcast for law firm owners and managing attorneys working on the business, not in it. I'm Ruby Powers, your guide into the heart of law practice management, bringing your insights from leading legal minds, trailblazing attorneys, and expert guests who provide practical perspectives on running your firm more effectively and efficiently. And before we dive in, I'm thrilled to announce that my latest book, Power Up Your Practice, is out and available on Amazon. It's packed with actionable advice for growing a successful law firm. Be sure to grab your copy today. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive tips and resources. And if you're enjoying this podcast, we love your reviews. They help us reach more attorneys like you who are striving to build the practice of their dreams. Prepare to open your mind, be inspired, and power up your practice to the next level. Welcome back to Power Up Your Practice. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, and we are talking about law practice management, all different topics. And I'm really excited to have Aniket Sawant, the CEO of Threadeo, a summarization and analysis platform for legal proceedings. He brings valuable insights for what law firms can expect and prepare in the artificial intelligence, how it reshapes the legal industry. This is a hot topic that it's really funny because he and I met on the very last panel or something, I guess your last day of one of the last panels of the ABA Tech Show this March in 2025. And I don't know, I was thinking about who said what to whom. Like, I don't know, somehow we were at a table and there was someone else with us. And then somehow we started talking about justice tech. And then we started like brainstorming ideas or something. I don't know. But anyway, Aniket is also has a podcast. And so we'll get into that too, the Litigator's Edge. So welcome, Aniket. So glad to have you.
Thank you, Ruby. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I had just learned about justice tech, like the concept, the word. I was already doing that type of stuff. I just didn't know what there was a word for it, or concept for it. So that's great. But like, do you remember how we met? Something, it was really cool. Cause I think you were like, I do that type of stuff. I'd be interested in immigration attorney. And I don't know, but I don't really remember the details, but I'm glad we stayed in touch.
Yeah, no, likewise. I remember it was the ABA Tech Show in Chicago. It was this past March. It was the last day. It was a Saturday morning session where two justices were gonna come on stage and talk about their use of AI as judges, which was like, for me, coming from technology, and I'm based in San Francisco, and we have a certain view of the world when it comes to technology, and we get some things right and some things not so right. But so for me, lawyers are sort of at one level when it comes to adoption of technology, and obviously that's changing. But then judges would be sort of at maybe a different level when it comes to adoption of technology. But these two judges were very impressive to me. I thought and I think that's what we got talking around, is like, hey, wow, there's it's great to see such a refreshing approach to technology taken by these judges. And then I started talking about, hey, what do you do, and here's what I do, and so on and so forth. And then one of the things that we had just started with Threadeo, just started looking into, was how could we apply some of the tools and technologies that we had built out at that time and continue to build out, and how we could apply them to other areas of other practice areas within law, including immigration law. So when you sort of shared your background, I was like, hey, wait, we're actually thinking of launching something here. So maybe there is an opportunity to continue the conversation, and I'm also glad that we did.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's just another testament, plug for ABA Tech Show as the co-vice chair for 2026, is just like the value of the intersection, the people, the thought leaders and the people, inspiration of the ideas that come together. I mean, I've heard of a lot of companies are created out of ABA Tech Show just by people bumping into each other and thinking, and but also like the power of the follow-up, actually reaching out and keeping the conversation going. And so for those who might not know what Threadeo is, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the services provided, and tell us a little bit more about the journey?
Sure. Well, first of all, congratulations on being co-chair or vice chair of ABA Tech Show 2026. I'm looking forward to it, and I would highly recommend to anybody listening or watching to this podcast that they attend also. I thought it was great. It was actually our first as Threadeo. It was our debut conference. We had never actually been to a conference as a company ever before, and this was our first sort of leap into that world, and I'm so glad we did. And it was the perfect venue to take that leap and to make that debut. So thank you for your efforts on 2025, and looking forward to 2026. So with that, yes, Threadeo is we are a platform or a company that essentially provides expert quality summaries and analyses of complex legal documents. We started, our original product was deposition summaries. We have our roots in the deposition video synchronization space, so we had access to a bunch of deposition transcripts. And over the years, sort of, I had this whole parallel train of thought around, basically developing high quality summaries and analyses, starting from 10 years ago when I was a research scientist, where I developed a Yelp for research article summarization. Way before its time, it was an interesting idea, but there were no LLMs, so we had to sort of shelve it. But we learned a lot in terms of the core principles behind how you can extract insightful and actionable information from any piece of dense text, whether it be a research article, whether it be a deposition, arbitration, trial, exhibit, medical record, and now our latest and greatest offering, which you're familiar with, Ruby, which is FOIA analysis, so Freedom of Information Act analyses for immigration law firms. And so what we've done essentially is created an engine that can analyze any type of document. It is optimized for legal documents, but analyze any kind of document, and then provide a comprehensive, as I mentioned, insightful and actionable summary. So what's important, what's in the document, what's important to me, and what should I do next? And those three principles essentially hold no matter what kind of document it is, no matter what field of law practice it is, and in general, no matter what profession you're in. And I think that's what we do. Depo summaries was where we started. And today, the Freedom of Information Act summaries or analysis is where we are today, and there's lots more to come.
So yeah, so I think what we had a call not too long ago, and you were telling me what Threadeo does, and then I was thinking like, how could I repurpose the ability of your skill, your functionality for immigration? And we were brainstorming, and that's when we're thinking about like the FOIA analysis. And then I actually was talking about Threadeo to my team earlier today, and my assistant that did she put in 300-page FOIA in your system, and it came out with an amazing outline and sort of like analysis. And I don't know, you were just telling me like what she told you about how long it normally would have taken her to do that. What was it? Something like a month or something?
Yeah, so she this is very nice to hear. I really do appreciate hearing these kinds of stories, because it means that our hypotheses are valid. So what your team member essentially said, Ruby, was that the analysis that would have normally taken her a month to perform will now take her likely only about a week. So that's about a 75% reduction, and that's a combination. And that's what we are looking for as a company too, is to add real value. We're not just AI this or AI that. We're like, hey, that is what that makes me more happy than pretty much anything else that we do as a company, to say that, hey, we saved significant amount of your team members' time, and then what that means for your practice as well. We're helping we're helping expedite that particular individual's or cases like that particular individual whose analysis was performed just that much faster, and helping them get the services they need. So that makes me happy as well.
And actually it was crazy because I was on vacation, and she was asking for a debrief, and I said, don't do your normal way. Like I was like, don't do like
Yes.
painstakingly going page by page, especially there's 300 pages. I was like, there's a tool. I was like, let's try this. And then she did, and actually she did get it all done in less than a week, and then put it up in for the attorney review. And the crazy thing is that client is so nervous, like as an immigration attorney, this client is so nervous, like she wanted to come into the office even though we hadn't reviewed the FOIA yet. But I mean, I'm just like saying, like, to know that we could do that evaluation so quickly. And I was that's really going to help reduce the wait time, reduce costs, and pass on that savings to the client. And I mean, I think that's all part of the justice tech concept. And we were talking about how I could help other immigrants and be able to sort of expand reach with less effort, and be able to to provide those legal services. But one of the other things I was thinking about, other purposes could be evaluating like cases we've owned for a long time to create like a really quick summary, especially when I've had court cases lasting years and I have a different team member who wasn't originally on the case to be able to know. Or we've been also hired a lot of times for cases that they have a request, notice of intent to deny, a denial needed to appeal, and just that whole synthesizing, summarizing, evaluating a large amount of data really quickly, um, getting a head start. I mean, sometimes we've had to just turn business away because we're like, that's a rush case and we can't do it that fast with the amount of work we have. So that's just really exciting that what I think the possibilities that could be and how the program could be used.
Absolutely. And actually, to that point, another thing that makes me happy is that you don't have to interrupt. Hopefully, there wasn't that significant of an interruption to your vacation in order to make this happen. Because I thought that was really great that you sort of halted your team's existing workflow and said, "Hey, try this out," and we were able to jump on it and
No,
support your
it
support
wasn't
your
much
team.
of disruption. I was just more like excited. I was like, wait, you need to talk to Aniket. Like, we need to try this out. Let's see if this works. And actually, she showed it to the whole firm this morning on our office meeting because I was like, let's do a little demo, let's show because I want the rest of the team. Like when you're thinking, okay, if a tool could be used this way, maybe there's another use case that we could benefit from. That's maybe not just only FOIA review or file review or even making when we prepare cases for court and making that table of contents, like you could throw in everything we're planning on submitting and make a table of contents potentially with the page numbers and everything, and that could also save time. So um, that was just really exciting. So I wanted to share that. And the other thing that's exciting is that Threadeo was chosen just late breaking to be an innovator, and that it chosen to be spotlighted as an innovator at the American Immigration Lawyers Association fall conference and the tech track on September 11th. And so Threadeo will be being able to give a bit of a demo or an intro to the AILA community, and is going to be spotlighted as an innovator. So congratulations for that
Thank
as
you.
well. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah, and just a quick note on, I really do appreciate, Ruby, that the fact that you and your team are brainstorming these new ideas, and that we love that, right? Because I don't necessarily. We'll talk about my background, I'm sure, but I don't come from a legal background. I do have other skills, and so sometimes I don't. Our team doesn't know what problems are out there that we already have the capabilities to solve. And so your approach with me in terms of brainstorming what we could do with your team in terms of brainstorming what other things we could do is exactly what sort of motivates us to build all these tools that eventually we hope will streamline so much of so many workflows for yourself and other attorneys.
and that's really what I love being on the innovation tech committee and the planning committee and being a part of it because I did this last year as well, and I helped MC with Larry Drum, and we had our little gong, and it was fun, and I kept the relationships going with the innovators and just giving them feedback, and some I'm a lot more involved than others, but like that's what I love about it is like if we can get the tech companies and the lawyers and we all get together and then the end users and we brainstorm how we can better serve our clients. I mean, just the collaborations and the synergies are exciting. I was realizing like my firm's becoming sort of like a beta testing camp. We got to keep it in mind, is it beneficial with the amount of time? But yeah, I mean, we keep those relationships when we know that we're helping them improve their product and they're helping us save time and better serve our clients. But I I I've I have one like curveball question to the
Please.
people who say, well, what makes your program like different than just like ChatGPT uploading a lot of data and then getting it organized? Like what would you say to those people?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the first, I'll answer it in a couple of ways. One is that it's sort of an outcome based answer, which is that the types of analysis that we produce, whether it's the FOIA analysis for your team, or whether it's a depo summary analysis for so many of our other customers nationwide. That is not the kind of output that you're going to get if you took that document and put it into ChatGPT or your favorite AI program of choice, even if that program was like secure and all of that, which we know they're not. But assume that there was a hypothetically a secure closed environment, AI bot agent, whatever, and you just said, summarize this and give me an analysis of this. You're not going to get that output, right? So that's number one. Number two is sort of a process-based answer, which is our systems take about 15 to 20 minutes to generate that analysis. Now, we all know that that's a lot of compute and there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Now, we know that ChatGPT might take like a minute or two or something like that. Or same with Gemini or Claude or any of the other models out there. So that time alone, and this is not us holding on to the program, holding on to the information, it's actually computing the whole time. And so that should also give folks a clue that, hey, there's maybe more going on behind the scenes than simply just being a wrapper or a layer over one of the standard models. Absolutely not. At a high level, what happens, Ruby, is that the systems that we use, the mix of AI models that we use, and we use a mix. Essentially, what those models do is they critically analyze different sections of the inputs, and then they sort of almost there's almost like a debate that happens between them, and so there's a constant internal refinement that happens, and only when the refinement is deemed to be complete, again, just by the system, is it output to you. And so that's why it's not just a one shot, here you go, here's your answer kind of thing. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, hence the longer time, hence the higher quality, and hence the difference relative to ChatGPT.
Awesome. Well, so I think we talk. I talk a lot about AI and legal tech, but what do you think is going on? Well, first of all, before we go into transition to that, so what made you decide to start Threadeo, and what are sort of some of, I guess, a little bit of like what you've learned as in the journey of being in this space, and sort of being there pretty early, I guess you could say, because I think you started in around 2018 or so.
Yeah, so 2018, 2019. So Ruby, you hit upon one of the things that I like saying, which is that we were using AI before AI was cool, around 2019. November 2022, ChatGPT moment, etc., is when sort of the general public, or certainly the legal
Yeah.
population, started looking at AI more closely, as opposed to it being like an intellectual curiosity. So there were two different threads, pardon the pun, to Threadeo. And so the one was the summarization one that I mentioned, which is that about a decade or so ago, I was a trained scientific researcher building all these research summaries, and then that stayed with me for literally a decade or so before we released the Threadeo deposition, and now some arbitration trial exhibits, and now FOIA analysis product. But that was our second product. Our first product, which actually gives Threadeo its name, was a video deposition synchronization tool. So, to the extent that the legal community obviously takes depositions and is familiar with them, you have a deposition, and but the video itself is not the official record of the deposition. It's the stenographer's certified transcript that's the official record. But what one may want to do, or what many attorneys prefer to do for trial, as they prepare for trial, or and sort of decide to show video clips to a jury from that deposition, is they prefer to create clips from the certified transcript that correspond to certain timestamps within the video, and then they might stitch all of these clips together to show the defendant or the deponent in a certain way, etc., to prove their point to the jury. That requires that the video be overlaid onto the certified transcript, because the video is kind of a separate input and the certified transcript is a separate input. And when you overlay the two together using various algorithms, then you can sort of make that certified transcript more interactive and create the clips and so on and so forth. And so that was actually our first product, which as an attorney, you would not really directly see yourself. You would only see the outputs because the court reporting firm would give them to you. But then you would use those those sync outputs to sort of create the video clips, to thread them together. Hence the name Threadeo. It comes from thread video. It's a sort of a mashup of those two. Yeah. And and we had the .com available. I'm very old school. I like .com, not .ai or anything like that. So I wanted to make sure we had a .com, and so that's how that name came about. How did we get into that? Now I'm a PhD in chemical engineering, so that's not really your this is not that much that would seem common at the surface between that and law, but just being an engineer by training, I like to sort of tinker around with things. And one of the things I was working on with a friend at the time, and now a co-founder and still a friend, was we had just built this video analysis tool, and it was just a tool that sort of analyzed gaps in video, and we had no idea what we were sort of what use it was or what was the value of it. And so we just developed this tool, put it up on a website, threw up a form that said, hey, we have this cool tool. If you have if you think we can use it for your use case, please let us know and we'll be in touch. And then within the first week, the vast majority of responses that we got were from court reporting and litigation support and trial consulting firms who said, hey, can your tool do video deposition synchronization? And I said, of course it can. And then I looked at my co-founder and say, what does that mean? And then we sort of started, we did some research and we understood what this whole deposition synchronization process. And it turned out that tool is actually 10 times better than anything else on the market even today. It's cloud-based, it's great. But again, most attorneys will not directly see it. But what I can tell you is in the same manner that our summaries tool sort of simplifies and accelerates workflows for attorneys and their teams, in a very similar manner, actually to an even greater extent, our deposition synchronization tool does the same for litigation support teams. So that's,
wow.
yeah.
Wow. That's
so completely different.
That's awesome. And so so you've had like a front row seat in building tools for legal professionals, even though you're not a lawyer and the law is not really your space, but you have those other amazing expertise. So just based on what you're seeing, and you've definitely been in this space for 7, 8 years, or if not more, in the legal tech space. What do you think the next 3 to 5 years are going to look like for law firms, especially using generative AI and other tools like that?
That's a hard question. That's not a cop out, because given the pace at which AI is advancing, and given the pace I think at which acceptance of AI is advancing in a historically sort of late adopter space, which law typically has been. And obviously maybe I'm biased because there's forward-thinking folks such as yourself and many others at ABA Tech Show. But in general, at least if I look at my social feeds, LinkedIn, etc., it seems like there's a greater and greater awareness of the value and the pitfalls of AI within legal tech. So I like to joke, with AI where it stands today, it's like, you can barely predict 3 months out or 6 months out. And we, there's an internal joke between me and my co-founder. It's like, hey, that's so March 2025. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, that was like 3 generations of models ago. But jokes aside, I think I, at the risk of, we'll see how this ages, but I believe that as AI advances, and ideally as the guardrails around AI also advance, and that's an important part, because there's certain models out there that are very smart but basically have no guardrails, and I don't want to have anything to do with them. But assuming that we have highly intelligent, or at least we can debate what intelligence means, but models that simulate intelligence extremely well, and that have appropriate guardrails, I think what we'll see is that the models and the tools that sort of use these models, such as ours and many others, will be able to take on more and more of not just the analysis, but also drafting and legal research and so on and so forth, and eventually take on a lot more of the workflows, especially the mundane workflows that one has to sort of go through in order to do the higher level sophisticated analyses. And I think especially for sort of law practice areas with a lot of backlog, certainly such as immigration law, I think that'll be a net positive, in that a lot of the mundane line by line going through things is work will be done by a lot of these AI tools and the underlying models, which then frees folks up to sort of take on a higher caseload, to focus more on higher order strategy. And I think that's a trend that's just going to increase in the next, certainly in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. And one other thing that I that I'm certainly aiming for with Threadeo, and I would assume slash hope that our other vendors are doing as well, is to increase the level of trust that attorneys have in these tools, right? Because I think if there's anything that's lacking right now, it's that level of trust. Especially, we not a day goes by without at least something popping up on my feed about some judge censuring some attorney for fake citations. So that really needs to end. And I think certainly as vendors, we're aware of that. We don't do any legal research as of right now. That could change in the future. But I think, yeah, so, enabling a greater proportion of workflows and certainly continuing to build trust, because essentially that's what the entire legal profession in my view, based on, would be two valuable objectives and trends that I think will dominate the next 3 to 5 years.
Are you finding yourself overwhelmed with handling phone calls and spending endless hours on consultations that just don't qualify? Well, let me introduce you to Staffy Live, your ultimate solution for 24/7 live receptionist and intake services tailored specifically for law firms. Now, picture this: empathetic, truly bilingual specialists who understand the intricacies of client care and are experts at asking all the right questions to qualifying callers efficiently. Now that with Staffy Live, you'll feel like you have a trusted partner by your side, ensuring only qualified consultations make it on your calendar and providing valuable follow-ups when needed. As someone who's been using Staffy Live for my own law firm, I couldn't be happier. And I guess what Staffy Live is now offering, a generous 15-day free trial with no strings attached. You can head over to staffy.cc. That's stafi.cc and click Get Started. And don't forget to use the code RUBY, RUBY. Your future self will thank you.
I think when we talk to attorneys in this space, the amount of skill level and knowledge and the curiosity greatly differs from, like, they've never. And I use ChatGPT as just like a litmus test, but really, there's all these other programs out there, obviously, but like, that one was the big headliner. But like, from those who used it to those who are like creating companies, that's sort of how I describe it. It's like there's this huge spectrum. But I think you're right. We're very risk adverse as a legal profession. We're usually the laggards, unfortunately. I do think the pandemic really helped us move into a whole nother century. That was great for us. Like I ran my law firm, from Dubai like 14 years ago. So the tech was there. It was just difficult working with the government in that respect, because they didn't have like the online filing and the web based hearings and things, all those wonderful things that started coming to immigration after the pandemic happened. But I think when you start hearing things like, what's safe and what's not safe in some of these AI tools. And then what happens is that an attorney will just get in their head like, well, this isn't safe, so nothing must be safe. And then, like, I was just thinking, what's a recent headline that sort of like struck my attention? It was the one by Sam Altman warns there's no legal confidentiality when using ChatGPT. I think what he was referring to more of like using it as a therapist or something, but I think it just passed around as like just using it in general. And it made me think about how so often people are using some of these tools, like they'll put, it's almost like you don't want someone to know what you put in Google searches or something, but I think people are having more, like, I didn't even know people were using it as like a therapist actually until one of my students mentioned it. And when I was asking the audience, my class, like, how do you use AI tools? And was like, well, I use like a therapist. I was like, yeah, fascinating. Anyway, but I think that contributes, those types of headlines and those things contributes to the distrust. And then the attorneys are just like, I'm just gonna do it the old way and not do not innovate. And I'm just like, no, like, if we don't innovate and evaluate and find ways, other industries are doing this. We need to be able to pass on the savings and the efficiency and the consistency and to our clients. But anyway, I don't know if that was really a question, but like those were just.
No, but I actually I do have you bring up something that's very valuable, and I think I have a couple of quick thoughts on that. One of them is that in the legal profession and generally, I think in among the general population, when people say AI, what they're really specifically referring to is the Chat GPT chat window. Like, even though AI is AI is used for everything from predicting failures of aircraft engines to
Yeah.
to everything. But people really talk about that ChatGPT chat window that has pros and cons, right? And so one of the big cons which you touched upon, Ruby, was that you mentioned the privacy thing, right? Yes, even if you're paying the $20 a month or whatever, my understanding is that that's not privileged, and that's whether it's a therapy type conversation or an attorney client type conversation ish, where I'm asking the ChatGPT for legal advice in air quotes. But that's where I think, especially for attorneys, and I have 2 points to make here. One is that's where sort of closed platforms, and whether it be Threadeo or I'm sure plenty of other platforms, I think that's where one of the value adds that those platforms, going back to your original, or previous comment or question is that the platforms that are sort of these closed platforms, they are actually private. So they are actually, like the information is not going to be shared, with models or anything like that, or it's not going to be used for training and things like that. Now, the question of privilege is a legal question, but in terms of technically what you're agreeing to, like at least the systems will be private, and your content will not be used for model training, and we certainly don't use your content for model training, anything like that. So that's the first thing. And your second, and to your second point to what you mentioned was, you're absolutely right that if people think, AI has all these negative ramifications, and certainly it has some negative ramifications, then there might be a substantial subset of people who are like, you know what, I'm just going to stay away from this AI thing entirely. And that's a loss, right? Because there are certain things that AI can do actually very, very well. And it's almost like there needs to be a taxonomy of AI tools. And that's funnily enough, that's actually what we are presenting, and we've submitted this application to the ABA Tech Show, and we're presenting at the New York State Bar Association at the end of this month, in terms of what are the 3 broad areas of in which AI can be used in legal practice. And the first one is summarization and analysis, and that's fairly low risk because it's internal facing. The second is drafting, which is maybe a little bit higher risk because it's eventually going to go out, but you have to look at it before it goes out. And then the third is legal research, which is the one that gets all the attention for all the wrong reasons, and that's the one that needs to improve. So the risk levels are different between summarization / analysis, legal research, legal drafting, and then legal research. And then just the excessive focus or the high level of attention on the legal research means that people are not necessarily using the drafting or the summarization analysis to the extent that they could to drive efficiencies for themselves.
Wait, so it was drafting, research, and summarization?
Summarization, yeah, broadly speaking. So,
because I would think that there's also, well, I mean, I haven't really thought this through, but like I would also think that there would also be like other ways to automate administrative tasks.
yes, yeah. What I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you have like billing and workflows, yeah. So I'm talking only about sort of content related, like case matter related, or cases or matters related items. So yes, if there's billing, if there's other levels of efficiency, workflows, behind the scenes, invoices, intake, those are sort of different. But yeah, those are also valid.
But the 3 you mentioned are the ones that are the most time consuming and usually lawyer heavy or experienced individual heavy, like the summarization. Normally that would be an hourly retainer in my firm, and going through those pages and then making an outline and then analyzing it and then pushing it up to the attorney to analyze what is what's the final result and what can we do going forward. The drafting, that's something that a lot of my team, we push up to like law clerks and attorneys because some of my legal assistants get intimidated by it. No offense to them, but I mean, or some firms are like only attorneys draft. There's different schools of thought about that one. And then and the research, yeah, I mean, there's that's sort of in that same boat where it's usually we'll have the law clerks or attorneys. And sometimes the attorneys just don't have time to do it because they're running around to consults and content creation and interviews or court or whatever. So usually it's like we have the law clerks get a kickstart on that first. But yeah, I agree. Those are 3 probably the most legal heavy and time consuming. So if we can lean, and actually we're using tools on all of those right now. summarization, drafting, and research to try to find ways to be more efficient and to be quicker to helping our clients. Yeah, that's a really good takeaway. I hadn't thought of
Thank
it
you.
from that perspective. So I think I mean that's pretty much like a way to break down like all the different and then we mentioned the operations or marketing and other, there's also like there's a lot of new what's it called, like AI receptionists coming out
Yep.
well, and a whole slew of things. It's quite fascinating. Or but so
Yeah, there's AI like note takers as well. We had a couple of our Innovators Spotlight colleagues also, fall into that category. So
yeah, and one that I'm wanting to work on is like a better intake process from taking the notes from the consult and requesting the contract and the follow-up process or the takeaways and what's next. And I think there are some companies out there that are doing that in that space. Um, well, so there's so much to say in that space, but I think we covered a good amount, but at least a good teaser for now. What I think what do you think that there's some people thinking that there'll be the need for less lawyers. This is sort of a touchy subject. What's your take on that?
well, so that's
Yeah.
I will try to choose my words carefully here.
It's
So
like
Uh, I think not just for lawyers, but in general for any profession, and this is content that I've read, and so I'm just sort of repurposing some of it because I agree with a lot of it. Is that any profession or any job, if you will, is sort of a bundle of tasks, and and those tasks have different levels of effort, different levels of skill that are needed, etc. Right, and so. To the extent that AI is really good today, and again, we'll see what the exponential curve looks like over the next 3 to 5 years. Going back to your last question, but to the extent that, assuming that all that we have is the AI technologies that we have today, I think AI is really, really good at taking and will continue to get better, even if the models don't. But the tools that use those models will continue to get better at addressing some of the more mundane aspects of anybody's job, and in our particular case, an attorney's job. So all that manual review of content, again, going back to my point about, hey, as trust increases in these systems, as it should, the attorney will find less and less of a need to go back and double check, hey, is that citation really accurate? Now they need to. Now I would highly recommend that you do. And of course, there's the ABA rules, and you always should. But but there will be more and more of an assurance that, hey, I can sort of rely on the AI for some of these tasks. So what that means is, in that whole bundle of tasks construct, you can get rid of maybe more of the lower level tasks. That being said, one of the big flaws that AI models have, and I don't see this going away anytime soon, is that they don't have the context that you as an attorney have, right? You know a lot more about the case than you put into any single AI tool. And as you know, with ChatGPT, every time you have to sort of repeat a lot of the context, even though it has your history, you still have to repeat a lot of the context, saying, and I know because I do this all the time in sort of my personal life and family life, is that every time I have to repeat, hey, I am, and whatever my family's characteristics are, and so that context is something that exists inside, all of our brains as professionals, and especially as lawyers. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon. And so that context then informs the higher level strategy that you might take with regards to, like the immigration case that we were discussing earlier in the show, or whatever other cases or matters that an attorney might have. So context and strategy is still going to stay, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon. But some of the lower level tasks will. So I guess, what does that mean in practice? What that means in practice is, if there is an attorney or a professional for whom the vast majority of their tasks is a lot of those lower level tasks, well, then I would say that, yeah, their job may be a little bit at risk. But if they can sort of repurpose their time to focus more on the higher level strategy that requires more of that context, then I think that the AI becomes an enhancer, or rather than something that takes away at least that individual's job.
I think that's just a testament for us to continue to find our highest and best use and use the tools to make us more efficient on those things that we don't need to dedicate as much time to. And Jordan Furlong, I really love his content. He came out with an article over a year and a half ago, and he said like in the future, and like the lawyers, that there are three essential roles lawyers will play in the post AI era, and it'll be advocate, advise, and accompany. And I think he's really right. Like I think once you start using these tools and you become more efficient, like ultimately we still will need to be able to have the strategic um critical thinking skills and to have that experience. And we need to make sure that we don't rely too heavily on these tools too, that we don't know how to do things the old school way, but then at the same time, know that that's where we're going in the future. So I think that's a good walkthrough of where we're going. I agree with that, and I think that's why I try to get out there and share this message with people. Like, please start trying, experimenting, working, leveraging these tools, and it takes time. It's not easy. Like changing your case management software, being more AI centric, leveraging the legal tech, even experimenting with different programs out there. You have to give it some time. And I think we all agree that they were only using maybe, I don't know, 5 or 10 or maybe 20% of our existing tech stack potentially, or whatever the number is. I'm sure it differs depending on the firm. Um, well, before we close up, I love to ask a lot of my fun questions, and so hope I don't catch you off guard. But what's your favorite board game or card game?
My favorite board game is Scotland Yard. So the game where yeah, it's a very it's yeah. I haven't played it in a while, but I really do enjoy it because to the extent that people are aware of it. I grew up playing it in India and many years ago. And what I like about it is it's to the extent that people are aware of it, but it's this map of London, and you have these multiple numbered locations, and there's a robber somewhere in on the map, and you don't know where the robber is. They only surface every few times, and then there's like 4 or 5 police officers, and they have certain number of tickets, and they can sort of they have to find where this robber is. And so I think it involves a lot of deduction, a lot of creativity, a lot of collaboration, in terms of if you're the police force, you have to know where this robber actually is, and you have to guess based on whenever they surface. And so that's those are all traits that you need sort of in your day-to-day professional life, certainly. And then if you're the robber, again, in purely a board game sense, not in an ethical sense, then you have to be really creative in terms of, hey, how do I get past this group of cops who might be closing in on me, and how do I sort of maybe mislead them a little bit, and all of that in terms of where I show up and what I do. And I think it's just a fun metaphor for maybe even the legal profession, now that I think about it. And I've known and enjoyed and played this game for decades before I even thought about entering the legal technology profession. So maybe there's a lesson there.
Well, I love asking this question because one, I sometimes buy the ones people suggest, and because I really love board games and games, and that's why I play with my family. But two, I feel like being a lawyer is like solving puzzles and being a detective, and so where you have to figure out what the rules are, what your resources are, and what the goal is, and then do the best you can at accomplishing the goal. So. What would you consider your superpower?
I think it's the ability to understand and explain complicated concepts to someone who may not be aware of them uh, at a high level. Which is funny enough what our product also does, but or tries to do. So maybe there's something there as well in terms of the summarization and analysis. But
Yeah,
uh,
that's true. That's true. I've actually gotten that answer a few times, but I think on the podcast. But I think that's a really important skill set, and a lot of successful people have to be able to do that, to be able to succeed and to excel. So,
Oh, can I give one more? Actually, I just realized there's one more that I
sure.
can sort of share. I think it's also at a high level understanding what represents something that is high quality versus not, and that could be a legal, summary output. That could be, whether a song is any good. That could be whether, what you're wearing is any good. It's or whether food is. So I think it's, down to taste. And I'm not saying I have exquisite taste, but I am saying that I have a pretty decent sense. And it seems like my son is sort of following in these footsteps as well. Is that if something is good versus not good, even if I don't know much about it, I have generally a decent idea of whether something is probably, good or not good, and that can be helpful too.
Oh, that's awesome. What would you consider a habit that contributes to your success?
Being pretty disciplined about waking up early, and then, just putting in the time every day, whether it be for work, obviously, as many of us do, but also for, like, working out, or just having the discipline to do even the little things that one might say, what, today I don't feel like it. I do my best to push myself over that, and it could be a small push. And the activity that I'm doing may not be anything particularly earth shattering, but by not skipping a beat, or not sort of letting myself not do it, I think it just compounds over time.
That's true. I mean, we're just basically, uh, a culmination of the habits that we use every day. And I saw James Clear at a conference, and I just Atomic Habits, and I just was really re-inspired, even though I had read most of the book before. It was like, yeah, those little micro habits and the ones that you team up together, like even just putting out your clothes in the morning so that when you wake up, you're like, it's just there. You have to go work out now.
Okay.
um, what okay, what is a favorite podcast or book, even if it's been a while, that you're just like, that was really good. I need to share that with the world.
Sure. So I think
It,
in terms of
it can't
podcast.
be it can't be your podcast or my podcast. Just
Yes,
kidding.
yes, yes. I was going to say your podcast, but okay. Other than that, uh, so in terms of podcasts, I really like the Hard Fork one by the New York Times, and
Oh,
also, yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's very tech focused and all of that, but I learn a lot. And I think it's just something that it's one of those that I can actually listen to with my family as well, with my wife and my son,
oh,
and so that's just a nice one, especially in this day and age. Um, a book that I like. It's an old one, so I'm taking you up on, hey, it's okay to have an old one. Is actually Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond. I learned,
yeah.
it's obviously it's been around for maybe a couple of few decades now, but just
Yeah.
in terms of a book that opened my eyes to sort of how civilizations were formed, how they sort of, to use his words, collided with each other, and how that gave us the world that we are in today. Is just a different perspective than my, engineering science sort of view of the world that I've had, and now obviously tempered with legal. So those that was certainly had an impact on
Oh, wow. That's an oldie and a goodie, and is I think that's fine. Um, so I we it's been great having you. We've talked a lot of different things, from AI and like the genesis of Threadeo, and what services it provides, and where how can people find you and stay in touch with you?
Yeah, well, thank you, Ruby, for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure. I enjoy all of our conversations, and this one is no exception. Yeah, the best way to get a hold of me personally would be on LinkedIn. So I'm just Aniket Sawant, and put in Threadeo. I think there's a few people with that name, so just look for me. And then threadeo.com, threadeo.com is our website. And those are probably the two best ways that people can get a hold of me. I read all my messages. I try to respond, and yeah, I look forward to being in touch with whoever reaches out.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show, Aniket. And I know I'll see you at some conferences and hopefully ABA Tech Show. And I think this is a testament to just, bumping into people, having conversations, staying in touch, and you never know what can come from that. So thanks everyone for listening. You can find us on Power Up Your Practice website. We have the book available on Amazon, and we also the school community, SKOOL Power Up Your Practice. And we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to the Power Up Your Practice Law Practice Management podcast. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a review, tell someone else about us, and I would love to get this podcast shared with others to reach more listeners like you. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive content, tips, and updates straight to your inbox. And exciting news, our book, The Power Up Your Practice, is out and available on Amazon. It's packed with strategies, 25 chapters, to help you elevate your practice and achieve your goals. So join us next week as we dive into more advice and insight on law practice management. We'll see you next time.